What would you say your initial reaction is to the uncomfortable conversation session?
That it wasn't very uncomfortable. I think that the speakers up there have thought through this enough that they are coming to the middle more and figuring out what the balance is, because that's really what this issue is about. It's the liberty interest inside the Constitution, which we have to treat very carefully so we don't slide it too far one way and then all of a sudden the police can come grab you just because they think they can. And sorry, that's the right of society to enforce that police power and take you, and you're going, wait, no, this is my personal freedom, my individual liberty. I get to associate with those people or be in that place. So it's the same thing. That's what we're dealing with. And so on releasing your healthcare information, when do you get to choose? How much do you get to control of your information? And when can I decide as an administrator, who all of a sudden I kind of then represent a little bit of the societal interest, when can I say, it really would be easier for me as an administrator if I could get your records and share them around with everybody? So that friction and that middle have to be found. I agree with Paul Samuels that, and I think Joe was somewhat in agreement with this too, that they're finding the middle on these things in terms of release. I really believe that people need to be able to consent to release their information, but I don't know that we have to be quite as incremental with it as it was. And so the proposal that would allow it to be released in a broader way and not necessarily have a date on it opens it up a little bit more. So as long as somebody really understands what they're doing at the time that they're releasing that, then to have that broader view of it, I think makes more sense. Obtaining the consent of the client is not a challenge. We've been doing that for decades where I work, and we have never found it to be excessively burdensome. But I do know about the addiction of administrator ease, which is people that look like me and otherwise who are saying, administratively it'd be a lot easier for us if we could do this. We have to watch that. And I like that SAMHSA took the comments in. I think what they ended up with in their proposed rule is a nice balance of all that, and we move down the road. The other issue that has to do with liberty then is, when is somebody ill to the point that we get to step in with then those police powers, the power of the state, to say, I know you're maybe not a danger to yourself or others, but you're super sick and you don't really understand it, and so therefore I get to come in and do that. The question in that instance is, what protections do we have in place that allow us to make reasonable decisions that way, so it isn't the person that's just mad at me who's going to come up and say, Topher's really sick and he needs to go away, or somebody who is making a snap judgment with ulterior motives or interests. And so again, to be in a balanced way like that. So, Lady Liberty is holding the balancing act in her hand, and the scales are that very idea of individual versus societal interest. And so I think on the when do we get to intervene is a little trickier question, and we have to be very careful about how we set up the mechanism to make that judgment. And otherwise, I agree with the issues. There are so many people who I think their best interest would be served by having an intervention and helping them down the road to get medications or some other intervention that will help them get healthier. But at the same time, we really need to watch that. It's not just about an individual. It really, and it isn't just about behavioral health. It really goes very broad in terms of how we look at liberty in our country.